am Bella Baxter.
And the Oscar goes to Emma Stone.
Bella Baxter is scandalous in the way a stain on a ripped skirt is scandalous. Not because it is complicated, but because it is simple, bright, and hard to pretend you didn't see it. The most misunderstood thing about her is also the thing that made her lodge in our culture so quickly. She enters adult life with the social software missing, and she acts accordingly, including sexually, and audiences are forced to decide whether they're watching liberation, exploitation, satire, or all three at once.
What? That is terrible.
And because the film builds her identity through outward choices, hair disproportionately outgrown, makeup withheld until it signifies something, clothes that appear as quickly as they disappear. She became a style object and a thought experiment at the same time. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. Bella didn't become confident the way the self-help industry sells it. She became ungovernable by skipping the part where we are trained to flinch at ourselves. Bella Baxter is one of the most impactfully beautiful things I have ever seen. She even kind of made me dye my hair black. In this very special, if I do say so myself, video, I will be transforming myself into Bella while sharing with you all the secrets of hers that I managed to dig up for us. Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. I have spent a whole week researching, watching, and editing all things Bella Baxter to bring to you her very essence and share the best of my findings. And I need you curious for this one, because Bella is not just a character. She's an unusual proposition. What happens to a woman's face expressions, posture, wardrobe, appetite, and erotic life when the usual policing mechanisms don't take hold? Stick around, because by the end of this video we'll even serve up a quick breakdown of what we can learn, very practically speaking, from Bella Baxter's unique universe. How to borrow from the vibe without cosplaying. Also, quick housekeeping, yes, I designed a Bella Baxter t-shirt just for this video's launch. Let's say it's my love letter to the film's innocence with teeth. Now why not pour yourself something sweet, something sharp? Bella herself summarizes her adventures as sugar and violence, so I'm suggesting a small glass of sparkling and a sugared citrus peel. Settle in, grab that, and let's start with the human blueprint beneath the character, who Emma Stone is, and how Bella Baxter came to be. Before we begin, if you like high-gloss film psychology with an actionable beauty angle, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Did Bella Baxter feel like freedom to you, or more like a trap, dressed up as freedom? Emma Stone was born on the 6th of November, 1988 in Scottsdale, Arizona, a Scorpio, which is shorthand for intensity with a sly poker face. As a teen, she dealt with anxiety and panic attacks, and she describes performance as an outlet. Acting is therapy, she says, especially when she was struggling with panic attacks. That detail matters for Bella Baxter, because Bella is basically an experiment in living without the anxious self-monitor. To play someone that open, you need to understand the cost of being closed. Emma Stone's early biography reads like a neat American fable about persuasion and will. She famously made a PowerPoint called Project Hollywood to convince her parents to let her move to Los Angeles for acting. That's not just cute trivia. If Bella Baxter is a creature without a past, learning how to want things, Emma Stone is the opposite. A girl with a big plan learning how to survive the long middle chapter. Auditions, failure, the slow burn of being almost chosen. Her breakout came with Superbad. And then slowly she moved through mainstream comedy into something more elastic. She won her first Best Actress Oscar for La La Land, and later won it again for Poor Things, of course. In between, she built a career that rewarded risk. She can be glossy, yes, but she's also surprisingly drawn to parts that remove the flattering filters. She dated Andrew Garfield after they met on set and were together for about 4 years, then later married Dave McCary. The point is not gossip, the point is that she has lived in real time the peculiar female celebrity requirement of being legible, girlfriend, wife, mother, muse, while also choosing roles that make legibility impossible.
I must go punch that baby.
Bella Baxter is the loudest possible refusal of be legible. Emma Stone described acting as a form of full presence, something that pulls you out of anxiety's time travel and back into the present moment. That is essentially Bella Baxter's entire essence. Sensation first, interpretation later. The film doesn't treat that as purely angelic, though. It treats it as volatile. If Bella's beauty and style feels so potent, it's because they're not costume. They're psychology expressed in fabric and hair. In a bit, I am going to explain the single design decision that makes Bella Baxter's look read as oddly dangerous, even when she's smiling. It's not the hemline. If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive, consider becoming a channel member. Members get access to members-only podcast episodes and give this channel a chance to exist. Thank you. So, Poor Things was adapted from a 1992 novel by Poor Things author Alistair Gray. The film was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, and it premiered at Venice in 2023, winning the Golden Lion, of course. And this is where the scandal actually starts, not in the bed scenes, but in the premise. Bella is a woman whose body is brought back to life through a brain transplant. She has a child's mind inside an adult woman's body. That setup is why the film triggers such an intense argument about consent, authorship, and the line between liberation and exploitation. Because the story asks you to watch sexual experience and decide whether choice can exist without fully formed context in a not yet fully formed mind.
Your horse. We are our own means of production.
The Guardian, to its credit, doesn't treat this like an edgy art prank. It treats it like a tightrope that the film knowingly walks. Is Bella Baxter a feminist fable or a male sex fantasy with an art prestige budget? That question is a part of the culture impact. People didn't just debate the film, they debated what they were supposed to feel while watching it. Emma Stone has been unusually clear about what attracted her. She describes Bella Baxter as her favorite character ever, and talks about mapping Bella's physical and vocal evolution, therefore breaking the film into stages of personal development. This matters because Bella Baxter's persona is not a type. It's a timeline. Backstage reports that Emma Stone approached Bella Baxter by stripping away as much as possible, taking away shame, staying completely open. That's because self-criticism would break the illusion. She also describes Lanthimos running rehearsals through theater games intended to coax the cast out of their shells. In other words, Bella's weirdness isn't random, it's engineered spontaneity. I must say here what I've been saying ever since I saw that film for the first time at its premiere. Emma Stone has never looked as beautiful as she did in Poor Things. Alright, now let's briefly talk archetypes, because if you want Bella as a psychological blueprint, you need a framework that's more substantial than TikTok.
What's in between my ears is my big concern. What's in between my legs, much less so.
Carl Jung is most useful here as a language for recurring human patterns. His concept of the collective unconscious describes inherited patterns and images, archetypes, that repeat across cultures. Bella is not one archetype, she's a collision. There's the child, not cute child, but child as primordial force. Curiosity, appetite, disruption, the refusal to treat rules as sacred. There's also the trickster energy. She exposes hypocrisy simply by taking language literally and desires overly seriously, which makes everyone around her look like they're acting in bad faith. And there's a shadow element too. The film's insistence that pleasure is not separable from power, and that a body can be both a site of joy and a battleground. So what is so special about Bella, uniquely hers? She is shameless, but not in the cheap I am a bad girl sense. Thank God not. Yorgos Lanthimos describes her as having this power of freedom, and it's frightening to people. That's the core. Bella doesn't negotiate with your discomfort, it's your private matter. She also holds an opinion that's rarer than any philosophical aphorism. Experience is not something that happens to you, it's something you go and take. Bella says, I have adventured it and found nothing but sugar and violence. That sentence is practically a thesis for the character's persona and aesthetics. And now, the controversy that keeps resurfacing. Some viewers read Bella's sexual storyline as ethically compromised because of her childlike mind. And yet some see the film as knowingly critiquing that by showing how men underestimate her and collapse when they can't control her. The Roger Ebert site, he was a famed film critic, critic explicitly places the film in conversation with the born sexy yesterday trope, arguing that it doesn't pay off for all those men who want a neat, hot, controllable woman.
What? That is terrible.
Bella outgrows them. The Guardian's debate piece, meanwhile, includes the more hostile interpretation. That you can't simply call something feminist because a woman chooses it inside a patriarchal structure, and that prostitution in fiction is often romanticized by men. Not only by men, though, let's be honest. If you're watching this for psychological takeaways, here's the useful, non-moralizing point. Bella Baxter is an argument about whether freedom is a feeling, set of actions, or a social context. Well, the film refuses to simplify that for you. And that's a good thing. That's why it got us all thinking for once. Bella's appearance is not a single look. The design team built the styling as story. Wardrobe, hair, makeup, and the shift in cinematography all tracking her internal development. Start with hair, because hair is the first rule Bella breaks without knowing there were rules. Nadia Stacy, the movie's makeup artist, says Bella's hair is left down intentionally as a marker of nonconformity, in contrast to the period-styled women around her. As Bella's journey progresses, Stacy increases the length, ending with 44-inch hair wefts. And there's a delicious production detail that feels like the universe conspiring in Bella's favor. Nadia Stacy explains that she was told no wigs, so she used microbraids and real hair wefts. The color went almost black, a happy accident because it made Bella stand out as almost otherworldly. That otherworldly note is key. Bella's beauty isn't meant to read as pretty first. It reads as slightly misaligned with the room, like she's a different species of woman. If you've ever walked into a party and felt overdressed, Bella is the opposite. She's under-socialized, so she looks like she dressed for the reality of who she is, instead of the occasion. Makeup goes even further in refusing decoration. Nadia Stacy says Bella Baxter's face is kept makeup-free for the first half, because she's essentially a baby at the start, and visible screen makeup would pull you out of the story. Instead, they concentrated on skincare, with clear brow gel and matte lip balm to polish her for camera. Then, when Bella arrives at the Paris brothel and begins sex work, makeup becomes a deliberate, learned tool. Stacy describes the brothel girls' colors as anatomical. Blood reds, pinks, blues, purples, tied to the production design's medical references. Translation: Bella doesn't start with beauty, she starts with skin. Cosmetics enter only when she begins to understand her self-presentation as a kind of transaction. Now, wardrobe. Holly Waddington, the movie's costume designer, has described Bella as unshakable, uncontainable, free. And she explicitly rejected a corset for Bella because it felt like bondage and fundamentally wrong for a character who is impossible to tie down. That's not just costume, it's more. If you remove the corset, you remove the period's moral geometry. No forced waist, no disciplined posture, no good girl shape. For the early section, shot in black and white, Holly Waddington talks about focusing on texture, with quilting and pronounced ridges on blouses. Clothes that can register in monochrome. Then the film explodes into color, as Bella's world expands, particularly once she travels with Duncan. Holly Waddington describes a palette inspired by rotting apples, and a very specific mango yellow for Bella's first outing beyond her sheltered home. The sleeves deserve their own moment, because they're not just fashion, they're spatial politics. Holly told GMA that puffed sleeves nod to empowerment. If you go around with sleeves like this, you'd take up a lot more room. How cool is that? She even connects the airiness of them to bodily organs, lungs, something about reanimation and breath. Bella's silhouette literally demands space, the way her personality does. And yes, we need to talk about the condom coat, because it's a symbol and a memeable object all at once. In one interview, Holly Waddington calls it an ironic pack-a-mac for cold weather that isn't warm at all. She compares it to how children don't want coats because they always want to be free, and she describes Bella's emergency mac as basically a giant sheath. The coat is comedy, but it also says protection is not the same as restraint. Vogue's Costume Breakdown tracks Bella's clothing as a narrative arc, early ruffled, puff-sleeved baby doll silhouettes and bloomers. Later, once she discovers sex, wardrobe experimentation expands across travel. Diaphanous skirts, cropped silk jackets, bright raincoats, and eventually into more pragmatic, intellectually coded clothing as she becomes interested in philosophy, socialism, and medicine. This is why Bella became such a style obsession. The outfits aren't just pretty, they're legible as evolution. She dresses like someone who hasn't learned what she's supposed to be. That's why the look reads sultry without the old traditional seduction. She's not trying. She's simply not hiding, and not pretending. In a minute, I'm going to give you Bella's beauty blueprint breakdown. But first, I want you to hold a question in your mind. What would your face look like if you stopped pleasing imagined critics? I think that's one of the most interesting questions for us here. And here's the part you can take home. First, skin before paint. The hair and makeup design explicitly kept Bella makeup-free for much of the film, focusing on skincare and only minimal, healthy-looking polish. I can't believe we got so lucky as to live in the time when looking healthy is finally cool. If you want some of that, start by making your skin look like it belongs to you. Clean, processed by loving care, not disguised by product. The otherworldly effect isn't heavy glam. It's the opposite, really. Second, hair. Bella's hair being worn down is framed by creators as deliberate non-conformity. In practical terms, let something be imperfect on purpose, just for fun. If you normally wear your hair tightly controlled, let one element go freer. The point is not making a mess of yourself. The point is refusal to look forced. Third, learn when makeup becomes language. In the film, makeup arrives with the brothel sequence as a tool of self-presentation, with anatomical color references. Reds, pinks, blues, purples. If you want a Bella-inspired modern version without copying sex work aesthetics, use the concept, not the context. A bruised berry flush, a vein blue accent on the eyes, a blood red lip. Keep everything else clean so the signal is readable. Fourth, take up space with silhouette, not shouting. Translation for your wardrobe: pick one room-taking element at a time. A structured, padded shoulder. A sleeve with air in it. A coat with interesting architecture. Then keep the rest simple so you don't disappear inside the costume. Bella's outfits work because they're decisive, but not busy. Fifth, replace flattering with expressive. Bella's wardrobe arc isn't at all about maximizing prettiness. It's about externalizing the phase she's in. Childlike first, academic pragmatism later. If you want the Bella effect, ask a different question when you get dressed. Who am I interested in being? Then dress for that, and not for approval. That is how aesthetic becomes a psychological blueprint instead of a copycat shopping list. Sixth, posture. Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos talk a lot about mapping Bella's physical evolution, walk, voice, language development, across stages. Translate that for yourself into one practical move. Choose one bodily setting you will evolve intentionally over, let's say, a week. Chin slightly higher, pace slower, shoulders unpinched. Bella often just embodied certainty. She looks where she wants, moves when she wants, eats like food is food, not a set of rules. Another useful takeaway is not be sexually provocative. It's this: remove shame from the system and the external changes follow. When you stop performing modesty or overt sexuality as a personality, your face relaxes, your eye contact lengthens, your clothes stop looking like costume. If you want to go one step further, slightly unconventional but effective, borrow Bella's curiosity. Pick a museum room, a film, a lecture, a dance class, a restaurant you've been too self-conscious to walk into alone, and go with the Bella rule. Experience first, explanation later. This is for reducing the drag of imagined judgment. Want to know what advice Emma Stone herself offers us? She talks about staying open, keeping your skin thin as an artist, letting experiences penetrate you deeply. For us, that becomes a good practical rule. If you want to look more magnetic, stop trying to look magnetic and start trying to be present. Your body will do the rest. If you made it this far, thank you. Please be so kind as to like, subscribe, and tell me what you thought of all this. And I hope you like the slightly new format. Beauty is a mystery, isn't it? I've queued up the next chapter for you here. I'll see you soon. Love, Kira. Now go create your own blueprint.
Did you have a good time?